Hello and welcome back to the course. Today we're going to be going through our gameplay phase and we're going to rework it so it matches the idea we are going for. After we've sorted that out, we'll move back into our upgrade and upgrade functionality. If you have any questions or want to come hang out, the Discord is now live and a link is in the description. I'll also be putting up a GitHub link soon, so you'll be able to kind of go through the GitHub and actually look at the code yourself and kind of study it yourself and see if you want to either make changes or see if you're missing something, or just kind of use it as like a physical walkthrough, I suppose. But I'll be doing that after I've kind of shown off how to do a lot of the Git repos and GitHub stuff. Now, with that out of the way, let's actually look into how we want to change our gameplay phase. Very first thing that I'm thinking about is the actual level layout itself. The level layout right now is really good for testing what we wanted to test. We've tested coin functionality, the like enemies managing to move, and player jumping and all that. It's great, but this isn't really what I want to have. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to remove everything from the entity container. So I'm just going to click the delete button on those and it will remove all of the NPCs, or all of the characters, the enemies and the coins. And then we're going to remove the test level as well. So now we have somewhat of a blank scene. Now we're going to go create a new scene of 2D. We're going to call this the base level, because it's going to be the first level, the starting level, the level that you can just start on and start learning the game, kind of like the tutorial level. So let's go save this under scenes, levels, save it there. Now with our base level created, we want to go and add a new tile set to this. So we're going to want to, add our tiles and create our level. With that added, we need to go over to the inspector, click on the empty button here, click new tile set, and we can click on that, pull out the stuff we need in the inspector. And then down here, we need to start actually kind of configuring our tile set. So first, it will kind of immediately highlight tile map. We want to make sure we are on tile set specifically down here. And now we want to go and add our tiles again. So over in assets, the Kenny Pixel Platformer asset pack, tile map, and we will grab the packed version, drag those in. I won't worry about creating an atlas. And then I need to change the texture resolution here, or the texture region size here. So this matches a little bit better, because right now we've got two tiles overlapping. We don't really want that. So we'll change this to 18 by 18. There we go. We've got whole tiles in here. And now we want to highlight the tiles we plan on using. So I want to use these three. I want to use these three. And I want to use these 6 here. Then, we'll add some of these grass pieces and we'll add the water tiles over here as well. So these are what I want to use. Now, the next thing we want to do, of course, is add a physics layer to all of the pieces we want to collide with. So to do that, we go to the inspector, physics layers, add elements, and that's it. We can now come back over to the tile set manager here, hit paint, property editor, and go down to the physics layer. And don't create an extra point. Wrong one. I managed to remove the physics layer by pressing Control Z too much. There we go. So now we have our tiles. We just need to click on the tiles that we want to add collisions to. So I want to add it to the top 6 here, and then these bottom 6 here. And then that will be all of the collisions that we actually need to have. Now, you'll see that these are like a pixel kind of smaller. That is actually okay. We don't need to completely worry about this being a pixel smaller. This is actually kind of a good thing, and I can go into why probably in the future. Now, I don't want to add collisions to these little grass pieces or the water here. The water I'm going to have as a death zone, and the grass pieces are just for decoration. So let's actually start painting our level. So to do that, we'll go into tile map. And we will first go and grab this corner piece here. And we want to just kind of start adding to how we want it to look. Now I have a rough idea in my head of how I want mine to look. If you're wondering how I'm using like drawing lines and things like that, with this tile highlighted, if I press left click, I can just kind of paint. If I do shift left click, it will draw lines. If I do control left click, it does nothing. But if I do control shift left click, we can draw boxes. Now I'm going to use Alt-Z to clear those up. So what I'm thinking is we cut out some of the middle pieces here. So we get 2 platforms on either side. They are roughly the same length. 1 to 16 and 23 to 40. That is a little bit off. There we go. We'll do that. Yeah. Now I'm going to add a 3-piece right. Now we'll add a 3-piece floating platform right here. Let's cut off one end on each side. There we go. We've got 3 tiles. So 3 empty, 3 normal, 3 empty. Now I'm going to add some 3 tiles above these gaps. Those might be a little bit too short, but we're going to have to playtest this a little bit and move some of these platforms around. And then I will do one more set up here, but I'm going to be using, make this a really long one like that. Go. That looks good. Add that one in there. Make sure those all line up correctly. That one does not. There we go. Yeah. So this is kind of what I want. So I will do the same thing here. This looks like it's 2 tiles above. So like right here. Draw my lines. This is mostly where the kind of art side of things come in. And remove 2 tiles like that. Yeah, it looks better. And we need to cap off these corners here as well properly. Corners are capped. Yeah. Yes, I'm not really too good at the level design part of this. This is a lot of art and a lot of kind of just figuring it out as you go, really. So these are going to be big blocks. These are going to be floating platforms, as are these. So to get our big blocks going, I'm going to use shift left click to just kind of draw all the way down. Cap it off, pull across, and kind of rinse and repeat. I was going to speed this up, but I know some people might actually like to see the kind of designing process that goes into this stuff. There we go. Yes, with Godot, it's really easy to kind of throw together levels. Since that's pretty much our level done, actually. Yeah, that's pretty much our level done. Now what I'm going to do to add a little bit of spice is I'm going to grab these water tiles, and I'm going to put these water tiles kind of in the middle here. Pull them down a bit. This isn't entirely necessary, but I like to make it so when the camera is kind of off in these places that, you know, you have something to look at. It's just not like an empty area. And the easiest way of doing that is by adding these tiles to it. So cap this off with some more water pieces. Same here. There we go. So that is, let's add some grass pieces. Add one there, add one there, add one there. We'll add like 2 there. Grab some more of these longer grass pieces. Add 1 there, 2. Just kind of go through it. Don't like that. That's too symmetrical on these. There we go. So this is our new level. This is already looking much better compared to the other one. And we'll be able to do some fun things with this. So with the level kind of done, let's hit Control S and save. Let's go back into the main menu. And then under our level container, Control Shift A, and we'll add the base level. So now that's our base level added. We now need to think about kind of the next step. And the next step that I actually want to do is add the falling coins. Before I do this, I went a bit too far with all of my deletions. I want to add the player entity back in. And then I want to put the player entity in the middle here for now. So I can press play, and the player entity can walk around and collide with things. Now this upgrade menu thing will be a bit of a pain to deal with. So I'm going to go to the game state manager. I'm going to open it in the editor, go to the timer that we've got going, and just turn off auto start and one shot for now. There we go. That way it won't randomly play, and we can just kind of mess around with our level a little bit. Now, these platforms feel a little too low, to be honest with you. I want to be able to make these a little bit more out of the way to give the player a little bit more, like, space to kind of jump around. So let's go and change that a little bit. Now we could use, not that, there is a selection button that we can use that is this one. There we go. Yes, we can just select this top layer here with the selection tool, and then we can move them up a couple of layers or a couple of levels like so. Now we can go back in and test. See if that's too high. That is one block too high, so we'll do the same thing again where we go into the tile map, we select everything, and we pull it down one tile, and that feels much better. Now the other thing we can do is we could select everything here and then bump all of that up a tile. It's kind of the finicky process of level design, is actually making sure everything kind of feels good to jump around on. Now, to get to this middle platform, they actually have to jump over this one. When we add either a double jump or a more controllable jump, that will change, but this feels pretty good for now. Yeah, this feels pretty good for now. So with that done, let's move into spawning coins. I want coins that can kind of fall from the sky randomly at any given moment, and the player has to go through, dodge enemies, and kind of pick them up if they're going for the kind of good karma runs. So to do that, we are going to go and create a new manager. Now this is going to be change type. We can just do a normal node type here. We're going to call this the collectible underscore spawn underscore manager. I'm going to save this over in our managers file. And this is going to be kind of very specific. This is not going to attach to the main scene. This is actually attached to the level scene. And that will actually allow us to have that kind of componentization of component. Basically, it'll give us another component or handler to kind of mess around with that we can just attach to a level and then set up the way we want, and that's it, the level's done. So we'll create a new script. We will give this the class name of collectible manager, class underscore name collectible manager. Oh wait, collectible spawn manager. There we go. Make that very specific. And now what are we going to need? Well, we're going to want a place to, or a way, or at least a position to spawn our coins in, but we can't just have one. We're going to want many. So what we can do here is we can export a var. We can name it spawn underscore points, and we can typecast it with our little colon here as an array, and then we can open the array up really quick, and then we can place in marker 2Ds. So this is going to be an array of marker 2Ds. We'll set it equal to an empty array, and that will allow us to create an array as large as we want, and we can start moving marker 2Ds around, which are just positions basically. They're little points on the map that we can move around and use those as spawn points. So with that done, what else do we need? Well, we're going to need a way of spawning the coin, right? So let's go and get another variable for the coin underscore entity underscore scene of type packed scene. We'll set that equal to null as well. So now that we have these, what else are we going to need? Well, we can't just have it persistently and always spawning coins. That'd be a bit too much. So let's go and create a timer. So to do that, we'll highlight the collectible manager, collectible spawn manager, give it a timer node. We'll rename this timer node to the spawn timer. And then we will drag in spawn timer and then control drop to create our onReady. Typecast it as a timer so the game definitely knows. And now we can kind of move into the coding. So I'm going to give us access to the ready function, and I'm going to write pass. Just want to get that kind of baseline done. Now, the spawn timer specifically, I'm going to want to be very, very random. I don't want it to just be every 1 second a new coin spawns somewhere. I want it to be like between 2 and 5 seconds, a random coin will spawn in a random place, and the player actually has to kind of be on the move and really keep a lookout for them. So to do that, let's go create a new function. We're going to call this get underscore random underscore time, and it will have a return type of a float. We want a return type of a floating variable. Now we're going to want to return a randf underscore range. So what this is saying is a random floating range between two floats. Now, to make this really easy for us to test, at the very top here, we're going to add two new exports. The first one will be for the timer underscore min. So var timer underscore min of type float, set that equal to 0.1 for now. And then we'll do another export var put that timer, there we go, timer underscore max of type float, set that equal to, we'll do 4.0 for now. Now that gives us a massive range, but we'll kind of figure that out as we go. Now all we have to do in the randf range is actually just put in timer min, max, timer min, and timer max. So this will now return a random floating point between 0.1 and 4.0. That's great. So what's the next thing we want to do? Well, we're going to want to kind of get the timer when it finishes firing, so when it fires that timeout signal, to actually spawn a coin for us. How do we do that? Well, if you remember how to connect signals, and the timer's timeout signal specifically, that means we are going to want to use a spawn timer dot timeout dot connect. We're going to want to use this functionality to connect that timeout signal to a new signal that we, or a new function that we hook up, and we are going to call this handle underscore collectible underscore spawn. Now let's go create that new function for ourselves. Give it a void return type. Right, pass real quick. Now the timer is going to fire. The signal specifically is going to fire when the timer is finished. And now we get to actually start kind of messing around with all of our spawn code and all of the fun things. But to make sure that the timer starts, we can use this on auto start. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on one shot. I'm going to leave a wait time of, we'll do 3 seconds. And then in the ready function, after the spawn timer has connected, I actually want to just go and start the spawn timer itself. So spawn timer dot start. And I will leave the parentheses empty, so it will use this basic 3-second wait time. And that will start our timer and connect the signal, so our loop has started. Now, of course, it's not on auto start, so we're going to have to remember to restart that at some point, and that's where the get random time will come in. But first, let's actually handle the spawning of the coin. So what we want to do is we want to, one, handle the instantiation of the new coin. So we'll do var new underscore coin. This will be of type coin, but we don't actually have a coin class yet. So what we're going to want to do is go to our base coin, and then we'll add the class underscore name base underscore coin. Wait, no underscore that, just base coin. Hit Control S and save. Go back to here, and then give that the type of base coin, also that equal to the coin entity scene dot instantiate. So we've now got the new coin ready to go. We've just got to figure out a place to put it, and the place that we plan on putting it in first is the entity container. So entity underscore container of type node2d, because I'm pretty sure it's a node2d. It is a node2d, there we go. And we'll set that equal to, if you remember how to grab our entity container, pause the video, put it in, see if you're right. If you don't, what we're going to do is use the node extensions file we set up a while ago. And then we're going to use dot get underscore entity container. And now we're just going to do our really quick check if entity container is equal to null return, because we don't want it to just go spawning in the tree anywhere. We only want it in the entity container, and if that doesn't exist for some unknown reason, we don't want this code to run. So with that done, we're now going to need to think about how we want to kind of grab our spawn points, right? So what I'm going to do to make this a little bit easier to kind of see is we're going to go to our base level. We're going to highlight base level. We're going to hit Control-Shift-A, and we're going to add that collectible spawn manager to it. Go back to collectible spawn manager's base scene real quick, and we're going to add the coin entity scene in. So we'll hit load, go to scenes, collectibles, base coin. Now under our base level here, we're going to want to add some spawn points before we start kind of choosing how to spawn it, just so it's a bit easier to kind of see. Now to do that, it's really easy. Highlight the collectible spawn manager, hit Control-A to add a child node to it, and we are going to add a new node of type marker 2D. And now what we can do is we can move this little marker 2D that's down here, and we can start placing it where we want our coins to spawn. So I'm going to have one spawn here, and then I'm going to hit Control-D to duplicate, and then I'm going to hold down Control so this stays in line. I'm going to do another one, let's say here, Control-D to duplicate, another one here, 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 and finally here. Now I'm going to do a few more spawns, just like that, just on the lower platforms, basically. Originally I had one spawning in the center here, and then I sat there and I went, well, if the player just stands here, there may not be an enemy that can reach him, so he might just get coins. And that actually goes for the same with 3 and 4 here. 3 and 4 can actually be removed, because we don't want the player to be able to stand in any position where they can just always get coins. But this does give us 8 spawn points to kind of mess around with, which is perfect. We only need really 8 spawn points. Now we can go through and rename these to spawn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm just going to do that, but it's not entirely necessary. You can do that if you feel more comfortable with that naming convention. But with our spawns collected here, or spawns collected, our spawns created, let's highlight the collectible spawn manager, go to the spawn point array, and we are going to make this of a certain size, right? Every time we hit add element, it's going to add new sizes to it. What we can do instead is we can just add 8 like that, because we know that there are 8 markers here. And then we can go through from 1 to 8, and we can just add these into our array. Like so. There we go. So we now have all of our markers pinned down. But as you can see here, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, this is very specific, right? This is an order, which means going from top to bottom, the order will always play out the same. So if we want a random spawn, we're actually going to want to kind of randomize the list, right? We're going to want to randomize their placements, and then we'll grab something random from it and we'll spawn a coin there at a random time. There's a lot of randomness here, and that's kind of what we want. So to do this, we'll go back into our script, and now we'll apply something really new and really fun. We will grab the spawn point. I need to rename that to spawn points. There we go. We'll grab our spawn points variable. Then we'll use dot, and then we can do a fun thing called shuffle. Shuffle will literally just shuffle the list and put them in a randomized order. So they won't just be 0 to 8 anymore. It will just be a shuffled random list. So with that done, we can use spawn points.pick random. So not only is the list going to get shuffled every time this code runs, we're going to pick a new random point every time as well. So that gives us a genuinely kind of randomized pick. We never know where the coin's going to go next, and that's really what we want. We don't want players to be able to just kind of sit under one spawn point and just be like, this is what I want. So yeah, we want randomness. So with our randomness added, we're going to want to create this as a variable, our picked spawn point as our chosen underscore spawn underscore point. And we can even typecast that and go one more extra as a marker 2D, like so. So our spawn point is spawn points.pick random. It's typecast as a marker 2D. That way we now have a spawn point locked in, and that's what we want to do with it. Now we just got to actually add our new child to it, or our new coin to it. So to do that, all we have to do is grab our entity container, use dot add child, and then we want to add the new coin. And then we want to set the new coin's position, so dot position. We want to set that equal to the chosen spawn point dot position. So that is our positions set. We now need to finalize that loop and actually get that loop going again by calling our new timer. So we grab the spawn timer, and then we use dot start, and we finally get to use that new function we set up called get random time. So I'm going to hit Control S and save. I forgot to add parentheses at the end of that. You want your parentheses in that. There we go. I'm going to hit Control S and save. I'm going to go to the base level, hit save, make sure everything is kind of set up. We're going to add a really short timer on this just to really show it off. And this might not go too well in a game, but it will be funny to watch. Go back to our main scene. We'll click play. Well, with that little crash out of the way, the reason why that happened is because when we changed the name of spawn points, it actually removed all of the spawn points in the array here. So let's go back through, re-add all of our spawn points. That's one thing to keep in mind, is if you do change the variable's name, it will, treat it as a new variable, basically. So 7, 8, 9, and finally 10. Control S and save. Let's go hit play, try this again, and see if it crashes. Nope, but it is now infinitely adding a lot of coins. So this works, but there are a few little problems with this. One, way too many coins, right? It's way too fast. And two, they are all kind of colliding with each other. Well, they're not colliding with each other, they're just sitting within each other, which means I just picked up 20 coins and I didn't really know there were 20 coins there. From a visual standpoint, that doesn't actually feel that good when things kind of overlap too much like that, without there being something visible to kind of show it off. And in this case, there isn't something visible to show it off. So what we can do first is we're going to go change the timers, mins, and maxes. I'm going to change this to 2 and 4 for the 2 in the min, 4 in the max, because I, after a little bit of kind of testing, feel like that's the most comfortable time frame for coins to spawn. It's not too much, it's not too little, kind of keeps you looking around. It's really nice. And now we need to go and make some kind of changes to our base coin to actually get it to feel better and look better. So let's go to our file system here. Let's go to scenes, collectibles, basecoin.tscn, and open up the basecoin.tscn. And now we're going to want to first go over to the inspector, and you'll see this thing here called a physics material override. Now, physics materials are a whole thing, and I don't entirely know the easiest way of explaining them. It's basically, hey, how do you want this to interact physically? Like, what material would you like to react like? Would you like to be like a bouncy ball, like a slab of concrete? It's kind of how they, or the easiest way that I can explain them right now. So what we're going to do to this is we're going to add a new physics material, and we'll click on it, because we're going to want to change a few of these little settings here to make it so the coins kind of, one, interact with each other, and two, have more physics interactions, because physics interactions are fun. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to add roughness, because this basically makes it so when two things collide, it will just slow them down a little bit. We don't want the ball to, or the coin in this instance, to literally be a bouncy ball and fly off to space if it collides with another coin. Because now we're actually going to add some bounciness. I'm going to add 0.4 amount of bounciness, which is relatively high, but it should be fine for now. And then I'm going to come down to specifically the angular velocity. I cannot say that word. I'm going to change this to 0.2 and the dampening to 0.8. And finally, the final change that we need to make is come down to the collision layers here. And we want to have this collide with the collide with coins themselves, right? So we want them to be able to collide with each other. So let's click play with these new changes. We'll just wait a second and see coins and see if they can collide with each other. Actually, I mean, they've got a cute little bounce, and that's great. Let's go go back to our base level and we'll change the timer min to 0.1 and the timer max to 0.2, just to get 300 coins bouncing around and going crazy. This might crash the engine, I have no idea, but they are colliding with each other. Now, we're starting to see a few little issues. The first one is the animation is always playing. Now, that isn't entirely bad, but can cause... I don't know. I think sometimes the animation's nice, sometimes it's kind of really not. In this instance, I definitely don't like the animation. So I'm going to go and turn off the animation. So I'm going to go to the animation player, go to the idle animation, turn off, and keep looping, but we'll turn off autoplay to stop that from happening. And I'm going to go one step further with the rigid body part of this, so the root part, and I'm going to unlock the rotation. Now, unlocking the rotation will make it so sometimes coins will just bounce off in random directions and roll around, kind of like this. And I kind of like this. This is, it's a little bit more crazy. And yes, there's way too many coins at the moment. We can change that. But I like this kind of level of interaction. And we'll tweak a lot of the physics settings more as we go. So with that done, there was one other thing I wanted to add to this video, and that is just spawning the kind of player in, right? Because as of right now, we have to place the player into the scene, and then we always have to do that. Instead of doing that, we're going to delete the player entity. And we are going to go and create a new scene. So we'll just make this once again of normal node type. And we're going to call this the entity underscore spawn underscore manager, because this will not only handle spawning our player, but in the next video, this will also handle the spawning of our enemies. And of course, this goes under managers. So let's go give it a script. Let's give it a class underscore name of the entity underscore, there you go, entity spawn manager. And let's get this at least set up for now just to spawn our player. So we use an exported var, call it the player underscore spawn underscore point, because we only need one of these. It'll be of type marker 2D, so equal to null. We'll need the player scene, of course, so we'll do export var player underscore packed underscore scene, SCENE, there we go, of type packed scene. Set that equal to null. Now we're going to want one thing I'm going to just do straight off the bat, and that is we're going to want a boolean for if the player is spawned. So I'm going to add that now. Var player, we'll do player, yeah, just player spawned, there we go. Of type bool, set it equal to false. Now, why do we want a boolean for this? Well, we are going to want it to stop spawning the player after the player is spawned, because if it doesn't, then you'll have like 500 player characters on screen. It was something funny that I ran into. It caused so many issues. It was so interesting to just kind of figure out. So we have a boolean for this. Now I'm going to first go to the process function and get that running and ready. Throw in pass. And now we just want to go and create our spawn player code. It's, yeah, really simple. We just do func spawn underscore player. By now, it's probably getting to that point where you can do this stuff yourself. Like you can just look at it and go, oh, you want to spawn a player at a specific point. Well, we just did that with the coin, so the spawning of the player shouldn't be much different, and it's not. It's actually the exact same. We just do new variable for the new underscore player. We'll do of type player entity, not player bounce state. We don't want the state to spawn, we want the entity to spawn. And we'll set that equal to the player pack scene dot instantiate. Then we'll grab the entity container again. Of type new 2D. Grab the node extensions file to grab the entity container. There we go. And then do our normal check. If entity container is equal to null, return. Yes, this is kind of how coding ends up being, is once you've done one system a certain way, you start to realize a lot of similarities in a lot of different systems, right? So we figured out how to do the spawning of coins. Well, because of that, we now know how to spawn players and enemies at specific points via spawn pointing. And that's great. We even now know how to do it at a random timing interval, which is even better. So let's finalize this by grabbing our entity container. Entity container dot add child, and then we will add the new player. Now, in the past video, I did say to you that we will use call deferred usually for this, but because we are only doing this once in a frame, we don't actually need to worry about that. It's kind of the same with the coin spawning manager. We don't need to worry about call deferring the spawning of a new coin. That's kind of the best part about using the timers, and in this case, only running the code once. We now need to grab its position, of course. So new player dot position is equal to the player spawn point dot position. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, the new question becomes, how do we go about changing this Boolean, right? Because we could just set it here, and that would work. We could just do that. We could also go about using a signal that the player specifically fires. It fires a player or on-player ready signal that we set up a really long time ago, and we can use that as the ability to basically set that from true to false. But yeah, we can just throw it into here, because using the signal, although cool, is not entirely necessary right now. So we'll just go player spawned is equal to true. And now, in the process, we can really quickly go if player spawned is equal to false. We want to, of course, spawn the player. And then we'll even add a little else statement here, is just to cap it off, and we can just write pass. The else and pass, not entirely necessary, but double equals, there we go. It's not entirely necessary, but it can be nice to do just from like a, oh, okay, so this is what's happening here kind of thing. So what do we need to do now? Well, of course, we need to go and add this to our new base level. So let's add our entity spawn manager to our base level. And inside of it, so Control A, we'll add a new marker 2D. I'm going to specifically name this one the player spawn. Let's go into the base level here, and we'll move this marker 2D around, and we will place it right here in the middle. Now, what are we missing? Well, we need to assign the player spawn point specifically to our enemy spawn manager, and we need to go and actually add the player as a packed scene. So to do that, we just go into scenes, we go into player, grab the player scene, hit Control S and save, and now we'll click run, and pray it doesn't crash. Now, it doesn't crash. Let's go and also change the spawning of the coin interval to 2 and 4 like I had before. And now we get to test this. Now you'll notice that the camera kind of snaps to this position but really quickly moves, and that can be a bit disorienting. So in the future we'll go in the spawning of the camera as well. I really love the bounce and like the little roll that these do. But yeah, we'll go into the spawning of the camera as well. But for now what we can do is we can go to our camera container in our main scene. We can move the camera roughly to the player spawn point. There we go. But yes, now it's just immediately, it's spawning in the player, it's spawning in new coins. We've got all of that handled, and we can now just go and throw those collectible spawn manager and the entity spawn manager into any other level we create in the future. And we can just kind of go from there. But yes, in the next video, we are going to be handling the spawning of enemies. And we're going to be going and fixing the biggest problem we have, and that is being able to fall off the map and fall forever. We're going to be setting up a respawning function for our player, as well as some enemy stuff. But yes, thank you for watching. As I said at the beginning of the video, the Discord is now live, so please make sure to come over, say hi, check it out. I try my hardest to answer every question that comes by and help out where I can as well. But yes, thank you for watching. I hope you're having a great day, a great game dev journey, and I will see you in the next video.